Hey everyone. Welcome to our weekly Twitter Spaces community call. Really excited about this one because it's the first one after we announced our tokenomics. Really excited to share more details about that and also about our new partners. For the ones that don't know, we just released a new blog post announcing our new partnership with Nomad and Connex, which are going to be deploying their bridges soon after we launch. They've been interacting already with the testnet and testing their system, so they're going to be ready once we launch in mainnet. So really excited about that. I'm just gonna list the agenda items so that we can get started. So the agenda today is the tokenomics. We're gonna do a recap, and then we're also gonna talk about the partnerships with Connex and Nomad. We're also gonna talk about the new uh, explorers that we're currently working with. Really excited about that. Also, thanks to your massive engagement in our social media blog posts and Twitter and tweets, we've been increasing our awareness overall, like on all our social media channels. And then I'm gonna talk about a little bit about mainnet and the upcoming public testnet. And afterwards, we're gonna finish with a console Q&A, reply to the questions from the community from Discord, and also if anyone wants to talk here, they can also raise their hand at the very end of the community call, and we can invite them on stage to speak. So without further ado, I'm gonna talk a little bit about the tokenomics. Akash, do you wanna give an intro to the tokenomics?
Yes. You can hear me okay, right?
Yeah, all good.
Okay. Great. So, yeah, the tokenomics of Evmos, we basically spent a lot of time thinking about this, and the reason is because this is oftentimes a place where it's pretty boring, and it's really just about token distributions, and we wanted to kind of rethink blockchain networks from the perspective of the people that are involved and who is contributing, as well as who are kind of the stakeholders that kind of grow early to long term. So basically, if we're looking at the Evmos token, it's really about aligning three people. It's aligning developers, users, and validators. And usually a lot of the value accrues into just validators, and they're the earliest contributors. And this is maybe a good thing for validators, but it's kind of a bad thing for long term of the validators. But also, it's a bad thing for users as well as the developers, who often are adding a ton of value to the L1 itself, because they're usually deploying applications that drive traffic to the L1 and therefore fill up block space and basically bring value to the network operators as well as other early token holders and contributors. So we wanted to basically rectify this balance. We've seen a lot in terms of fat protocols, and Evmos to some extent is a fat protocol. It's not completely rejecting the concept of a fat protocol, but rather we're trying to build this self-sustaining economic machine that embraces some parts of being a fat protocol and rejects others. Um, and the Evmos token itself is not just it's not just for fees and staking. It's also going to be a token that drives governance outcomes. So we want to be able to align the three actors, through a lot of these outcomes. And some of the things that you might be operating, using the token for is, for example, we have this concept of usage incentives, which is going to be basically 25% of the block emission, and it's going to be creating a pool that is dedicated to incentivizing users of Evmos. And part of this is basically the V1, which is giving a gas subsidy for certain dApps, and this will be activated by governance. And the rewards of these gas subsidies or fee rebates are basically going to be issued at a deferred rate, which will be 1 week by default. So if you make transactions, let's say, today, ideally, the rewards will show up in like a week's time, and you'll know how much you basically were entitled to based on kind of your usage of the network. And the idea is to kind of pool up the usage and give the most, whoever kind of uses the network the most, more of a rebate for their usage. And another part of this is the V2 of usage incentives, which is going to be sort of more of a liquidity mining scheme, which is basically taking part of the Evmos tokens from the usage incentives pool and putting it in a something like a contract, which would basically be governance controlled. And the idea would be to make this contract akin to a decentralized Avalanche Rush. So the simplest form of this is just like a liquidity farm where you lock up IOUs that are, ERC20 tokens on like some protocol on Evmos, and it's governance controlled. So it's effectively a decentralized Avalanche Rush. And we saw how successful Avalanche Rush was, so we want to kind of replicate that growth success. And we think a lot of people will be excited to kind of hop into Evmos, knowing that these rewards are there for especially the early applications, but also the early users. And we had like a really cool kind of feedback loop that we put in the blog post, where basically it's like, if we give usage incentives to drive users and give more, tokens out to the users will spend the token to use services. The devs will make more fees, and the base layer gets more TVL, and then validators will basically bring in more incentives, as well as big token holders will also vote to bring in more incentives to bring more growth. And this is kind of, aligning the parties early on so that, we drive plenty of usage to the platform, and we kind of secure these early contributors that we think are going to be really paramount to the growth of the network. In terms of incentives, that's really the main one. We do some stuff with fees. We call this notion the dApp store, which is basically we kind of have like a fee revenue model, which we split 50-50 of the fees with contract deployers and the network operators. The reason we call this the dApp store is because, similar to the App Store, there's an App Store operator, and, there are developers, and essentially, the App Store typically gets like 30% or 20% of, the developer's revenue. And, the App Store is essentially providing like maintenance for frameworks. They're basically maintaining like the publishing of the app. They're providing this whole like platform and ecosystem that's pretty federated from their standpoint to deploy things. Evmos is not a federated network necessarily. So, the way we are going to do monetization will be federated by governance. So essentially people will have to kind of vote in which contracts are going to be the ones that get rewarded 50-50 in this scheme. And we want to see kind of people experiment with this revenue model, because 50-50 is really just a safe starting point, because we want to be conscious of the fact fees exist because of spam prevention. The initial quote in the Ethereum white paper is, Ether is like the main internal crypto fuel of Ethereum, and it's used to pay transaction fees, right? But it's also used to prevent, and the whole concept of fees is really to prevent, spam from overwhelming the EVM. So, this is a fee model we want to kind of see more feedback on over time. We want to see how it works initially, and it's going to be there at launch. We're also, it's going to be implemented based on EIP 1559. So instead of burning the base fee, we're going to redistribute that base fee and put the capital to work in this case. And we're also going to be, reimbursing IBC relayers up to at least 50%. We're going to see if we can push that number further, but that's the initial plan. And yeah, the overall kind of token distribution, staking rewards is going to be pretty significant. It's going to compose about 40% of newly released tokens. Usage incentive is going to be 25%. The team vesting will be 25%, and the community pool will be 10%. And after kind of 4 years, that results in about, the token being owned by mostly the public. About 80% of the token supply is just going to be owned by the public. 20% will be owned by the team. In 4 years, you could probably picture some of that, going further into the public anyways, because the team tends to evolve over time, and we can kind of see like team members, becoming part of the public rather than being a part of the team. So, we can definitely see, that the network is going to be pretty publicly owned in the end. Yeah, that's really what that summarizes the token model for the most part. The community pool, I think we're seeding it initially with 10%, as you might have noticed, and the reason is because we want to kind of ensure that the Evmos community pool is this very active community pool, and our project was made possible by the Cosmos community pool, and without that, we wouldn't have kind of the freedom or time and creativity to kind of create this project. So we wanted to encourage people to be able to do this as well through the Atmos pool. So that's why we are really emphasizing people to make use of the community pool. And the plan is that the expectation for this is actually that we can use it to fund important tooling, infrastructure, education, or even retroactive public goods funding. There was some interesting proposals on Gitcoin from, I think, Dave White of Paradigm, which basically means they were doing like quadratic funding schemes, which I think were pretty awesome for funding public goods. So I recommend checking that out. And yeah, we can definitely do some equally as cool things with the community pool. So I think that summarizes it. The rec drop is going to be pretty large. It's going to be about 80 million at most tokens at Genesis. So yeah, we're hoping that it's going to be a pretty exciting initial distribution, and happy to kind of hear feedback from the community on this call.
Yeah, this is awesome. Thanks, Akash, for explaining the tokenomics. So just to recap, the Atmos tokenomics tries to incentivize not only validators but also create a balanced alignment between validators, developers, and users by implementing proof of stake, and also splitting the transaction fees so that the developers can also earn tokens according to the usage of their protocol, and also end users will be eligible for rewards for the contracts that have been approved by governance. So it's really like an incentive mechanism for all these three actors, and we're really excited to launch Evmos with all these three actors aligned. So yeah, thanks so much for that. Nice description of the tokenomics. For the ones who want to take a deep dive into the tokenomics and the Evmos token model in general, please go to our blog post, evmos.blog, where you can find the Evmos token model there on the announcement. Awesome, guys. So next item from the agenda, we wanted to also give an opportunity to Nomad and Connex to basically give our recap of the announcement that we just released and published. So really excited about this because they're going to be the main EVM bridges, bringing liquidity and providing all the different tokens from the different EVM networks on onto Evmos in the first few days after launch. So really expanding the entire outreach of the Cosmos ecosystem to also the EVM ecosystems. So guys, want to give more details on Nomad and Connects on the announcement?
You can go ahead first, Renee.
Perfect. Hey y'all, I'm Pranay. I work on Nomad, and yeah, super excited. Thank you, Fede, for the chance to come speak at the community call and share more about kind of the how on day zero we'll have EVM bridging over to Evmos. Obviously, Evmos has been a long time coming. It's a very exciting time for the Cosmos ecosystem overall, but having Evmos in particular allows all the existing apps and cool things that people are doing on Ethereum and other EVM chains to be ported over much more seamlessly. And as part of that, liquidity is kind of a foundation for everything. We've kind of seen the interoperability and bridge landscape explode over the last year or so because people are flooding to other execution environments and need to bring existing liquidity from Ethereum. But one major downside of this is it's created this large patchwork landscape of bridges where for users, it's been very tough to evaluate the security model. And even as soon as today, there was a multi-chain vulnerability, the artist formerly known as AnySwap, where 6 assets were vulnerable, and I think 1.4 million was kind of exploited. At $1.4 million was exploited as part of this recent issue. And so security with bridges has kind of been a thing that's been ignored, but coming to the forefront more and more. And what we're excited to do as with Nomad is offer a more secure but also low-cost bridging solution that makes a trade-off of latency. And so how Nomad works is it uses an optimistic mechanism to basically allow less overhead for bridging with the ability for, as long as one honest watcher is available, to flag fraud and prevent any issues with cross-chain comms. But by partnering with Connext, which offers fast swaps between chains, users get all the holy trinity of bridging, which is fast, cheap, and secure. And so we're super stoked on day one to be supporting Evmos. I think Julian on our team is also available to kind of share how you can get involved as part of the community. But yeah, bridging is going to be huge and drive a lot of liquidity to Evmos, and couldn't be happier to be a part of this.
Yeah, hey everyone. Thanks so much. Super excited to be partnering with Evmos and also Connects. And yeah, feel free to head over to our Discord, engage in the community. We do have docs. Docs.nomad.xyz. And yeah, we're super excited for this. And I guess I'll pass it over to Connects now.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks, Evmos, as well for hosting us. This is super cool. As Pranay mentioned, there's obviously a lot of fragmentation around like the bridging ecosystem, there's I think like it's taken a while to get to the point where we've been able to like build solutions for interop that actually are trust minimized and like don't delegate to like an external set of actors that could potentially like steal funds. I think Nomad is doing some incredibly powerful work there to allow for bringing assets to Evmos and other chains in a way that doesn't result in like users now facing kind of a perpetual risk while holding those assets. Connex is a little bit of a different project, so we are also an interop system, but we don't do the same kind of interop, and I think the combination of Connex and Nomad together actually creates something incredibly powerful. So what Connex does is we take like a slightly different end of the trade-off spectrum. We're still a fully trustless system, but we don't optimize on like allowing for more general communication between chains. So things like token minting, but instead we are really fast and cheap. So and we're very easy to deploy to any chain. Basically, Connext has this core dependency, which is that we need tokens to exist on a chain, and like we hold liquidity. Our network like holds liquidity pools in those tokens, and like allows you to transfer over them. And so, in order for our system to be really trustless, like we need to have something like Nomad exist, so that way the assets that are held by like Connext node operators and also given out to users are are not like aggregating the potential like security assumptions of a different system. So when you put these two things together, basically Nomad allows you to have these like mint new liquidity on a given chain, and do that with like a 30-minute to 3-hour latency. And that is really powerful for like institutions. It's really powerful for like Connect's node operators, powerful for like market makers and other kinds of like large scale whale transactions that may be like much higher than a liquidity pool could reasonably do at low cost. And then on the other hand, you have Connect, which is fast and cheap. Usually happens in under 2 minutes, and so you could basically then have utilize Connect to route over the Nomad created liquidity, which is really suitable for like end users, people who want to just get into and out of Evmos quickly, or even like build directly into like an application on Evmos. So in that way, you can trade on like localized AMM on Evmos from like any other chain. Yeah, I think that's a high level. I'm Arjun from Connect. Definitely, follow our Twitter or join our Discord. We're also doing some really cool stuff and collaborating really closely with the Nomad team, because we think there's something really powerful when both of these solutions are put together.
Awesome. Thank you guys. We're really stoked of you guys launching in the first few days, because it's going to be bringing all the liquidity from Ethereum and all the other EVM ecosystem directly to Evmos, and also bringing those assets to the entire Cosmos ecosystem, which is going to be huge. Not only those assets will be available on Evmos on day one, but they will also be available in liquidity pools on Osmosis, and also Cosmos Hub and Amaris, and also be transferred to the rest of the Cosmos ecosystem thanks to our ERC20 module, which allows ERC20s to be converted to IVC tokens and then transferred over to other counterparty chains. So really excited about this, because it's opening the entire ecosystem of Cosmos to the Ethereum ecosystem, and also to the EVM ecosystem. So all the EVM compatible chains out there, on Polkadot, Avalanche, etc. So really excited about that. Thank you guys.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's something really powerful about like what Evmos is doing by like basically being this like hub where you can connect to like the rest of the Cosmos ecosystem, and then also EVM compatible chains, because like it opens up this like pathway to use like basically use a combination of like Connect's Nomad and IBC put together to do really powerful things, like allow users to like stake Cosmos assets like on Cosmos chains from Ethereum. Using like in a single transaction, which I think is just it's going to be like mind-boggling when it happens. But it's really going to simplify the user experience of interacting with so many of the Cosmos assets that I think people are really interested in, but otherwise normally need like a centralized exchange to use.
Exactly. I didn't want to geek out too much about this because I could go for the whole hour if I get started. But just towing off what Arjun just said, like the core value of IBC is not just sending assets, but it's sending packets of information between chains. And thus far, like the Cosmos ecosystem is getting a lot of action right now because people are seeing the value of that. But beyond the Cosmos boundary, getting that information to Ethereum and back has been impossible thus far. And Evmos now serves as the port of entry, not just for assets, but for data overall. And so we're going to see some really cool stuff where, as Arjun said, beyond just sending assets, contracts are going to be composed between the Ethereum EVM ecosystems and Cosmos ecosystems. So this connects the topology of not only Evmos and Ethereum, but these two entire federations. And it's going to take a while for the full extent of what this means to play out, but the potential is enormous.
Thank you guys. Really excited about this. Now to the next agenda item. Akash, do you want to talk about our growth in social media now?
Yes. Yeah, so we are basically growing super fast on social media, and we're very, very thankful for the new numbers. So we're almost approaching 28,000 followers on Twitter. We are also we are also approaching record amounts on Discord. Let me see if I can pull up the numbers. Yeah, we have almost 25K Discord members, which is pretty crazy. So that's pretty amazing. And then Telegram is over 5,000, so that's pretty awesome. Yeah, so numbers are going up. So yeah, thank you everyone for the engagement. It's been pretty amazing. One thing to note is we have a lot more spam and scammers that are showing up in the community. So yeah, just keep in mind that the team is never going to DM you directly to ask for your seed phrase. And generally speaking, they're not going to be DMing you directly on like Telegram randomly, or other or Discord. Typically, you're going to have to reach out to the team first, in order to actually get like a real team member on the line. The other thing I wanted to mention is the KYC process is now closed. There is no way to change the current outcome of the airdrop. So if anybody is telling you differently that you can, basically get into the Evmos airdrop, they're lying. We're going to be releasing a dashboard that's going to be able to tell you as to whether or not you got into the airdrop. So please stay tuned for that. But yeah, keep in mind that there's no weird activities you can do to get like an airdrop now. Back to you,
Awesome.
Fede. Yeah.
Awesome. And now to the next item. So we want to also talk about a little bit about mainnet, what's next. I know that we've been doing announcements on some dates, but I wanted to give more clarification on what are the next items that we need to resolve before we launch mainnet and also our public testnet. So right now we're currently running our internal tests on a non-stable version of the Cosmos SDK. So we were working together with the Cosmos SDK team in order to get like a final release, which has been tagged. I think it was like an hour or like less than an hour ago. So right before this call. So really excited now that we're unblocked on the Cosmos SDK side. So we'll be updating all our dependencies to cut a release not only on the Ethermint library, but also like on Evmos. And then we'll be testing all our software. These unfortunately will most likely have to push the launch date. So we need to first run some integration tests with this new version, and then we'll be more comfortable in telling you like a new release date. But it's gonna be what we're thinking. It's gonna be probably like by the end of this month. But once we do this run this internal test suite with this new release, which was, as I said, released just before this community call started, we with more confidence will be able to tell you when are we gonna be giving the final launch date. So really happy that we're unblocked on that. Honestly, before this call, I was, we're gonna have to delay it. I don't know until when the launch, but now that we're unblocked on this release, we're really happy to tell you that one of their final blockers has been released. We're also doing some final integrations of the tokenomics modules and engineering work there. So that's also something that we are really looking forward to finish. And also, as Akash mentioned, we're also going to be releasing some like a nice UI for you to check how many tokens you've received through the airdrop, and also because of your engagement with the incentivized testnet, the Olympus Mons incentivized testnet, and the Mars Meteor missions. So yeah, that's where we are going to do, and those are the final things that we need to prepare for mainnet, but everything else is pretty much done. We've done a lot of optimizations on the EVM, so really looking forward for that one. So hopefully for the validators out there that have been participating in the past incentivized testnet and also the public testnet before that, that we're running into state bloat issues, hopefully that is going to be partially resolved because of these performance improvements that we did. And thank you again to OriginTech to also provide some help and support here. Yeah, those are the main blockers for mainnet and the things that we've been doing so far. Yeah, so for Genesis, so we opened, as you might know, as you may already know, we opened for validators who wanted to express their interest in becoming Genesis validators. That has already been closed. So we are doing all the processing of those applications. We received an astonishing amount of more than 600 applicants for mainnet Genesis. So really looking forward. We're filtering also on giving more priorities to the ones that have been already engaging with the community, have been already active. We know who you are, and we're going to be taking that into consideration. So if you've been running already on the testnet, most likely you are going to have a higher chance that someone who hasn't participated or engaged in any way. So that's something that we're going to take into consideration. And after that is said, we're going to contact you directly to start the Genesis procedure. You're going to be hearing from us about that in the next few days. So yeah, that's all that validators need to hear for Genesis. We don't have a final release yet, as I mentioned before. So so we need to wait on that in order to generate the Genesis transactions, and basically for you guys to try the software locally or during the public testnet that we'll be releasing shortly before mainnet. Yeah. So after that, we can continue to the console Q&A. Akash, do you want to start with some questions and answers?
Yeah, sure. So this one is from Bit2Easy. He's asking, where will the initial liquidity be provided, Osmosis or Uniswap? Great question. So, we will not be, starting the initial liquidity, but the way we picture it is people will get airdropped, and there will be plenty of strong opportunity to go and head over to Osmosis, spawn a liquidity pool, and anybody can basically do this. I think there is a process for like actually getting the token on Osmosis. Like you need to like enable it through IBC and get the icon in the front end and stuff. So there's obviously there's a process for this. But assuming that it's a governance based process and it gets approved, and then somebody spawns like the pool to start creating start basically trading of Evmos with the flagship coins like Osmo or Atom. There will be the initial liquidity there that pulls up. As a follow-on to that, I think if people might be wondering if we're going to do like incentives on top of that. The answer is we can. It's definitely something that governance can like decide to propose if we want to do like an incentivized pool on osmosis. There's like two sides to that argument, I think, and I kind of wanted to hear from the community a bit more on like which one is sort of the better approach. But yeah, hopefully that answers the first question. The next question is from DevOps MNE, which is my question is how to stop high and GM spam in Discord channels. Yeah, so the spam in Discord, we're working on it. We're going to be building some bots to help with this. Hopefully that'll come up this week.
You should make a GM specific channel and then mute anybody that doesn't post in it. It's great. We have one.
That could also work. Yeah, we might just have to do that. Open to ideas on this one. We'll be talking to our community managers about this. Bit Too Easy asked another question, which is initial circulating supply will be 80 million airdrop tokens. Yeah, so if you look at the Genesis supply chart, it will be basically 80 million going to the airdrop, 20 million going to the community pool, and then there's 100 million that goes to strategic reserve. And this is kind of similar. This was kind of like inspired by like the osmosis strategy, which was to basically make it make some kind of like distribution mechanism that was like a fair drop, but also keep some aside for strategic purposes. So if there's ever like advisors or like fundraisers or that kind of thing, there's a reserve available to like raise from. Vinod 38 said, when the token distribute? Great question. That's going to happen whenever Genesis is. And Genesis is going to happen basically day one mainnet launch. It's like the first thing that has to happen. So that's going to happen probably towards the end of this month. That's our goal. Hyper Cheddar asked, what will Celestia and Evmos collab look like? How shortly after both mainnets can it be expected? Fede, you can chime in here a bit as well, but the way I see it is, the Celestia Evmos collab, the way like Celestia works is, it's like a roll up. It's basically like a roll up. It's a chain dedicated for like roll ups. So because it's really just a data availability layer, and roll ups when it comes to creating fraud proofs and whatnot, you basically need to make use of a data availability layer. And the Celestia Evmos collab looks something like you have execution for something on Evmos, and it's on the EVM, and essentially you could have a dedicated service that goes through Evmos to basically roll up the EVM executions to Celestia. And this would enable sort of infinite scalability, and it's kind of like an opt-in thing you can do, and it wouldn't require you to change your programming model, which is pretty neat. This is kind of early in the works. We're still figuring out kind of what the exact UX will look like and how the devs will kind of work with Celestia, because it's really like brand new kind of tech, and there's an implementation for a rollup called Optimint that's being worked on, and we have to like figure out, hey, like how do we operate this thing over IBC, and how do the protocols, like how do the devs basically like work with this like toolkit.
Just to add to that, so we'll be launching mainnet, and then for the data availability layer, we need Celestia to launch actually. So we're going to be interacting directly with their team and doing this collaboration on the side, but it's not going to be live until Celestia has launched. So that's a TLDR.
Yep. So it's a bit further out because of that. Kuza asked, at launch, what tokens will be able to be bridged from ETH mainnet? Will it be a select group of ERC20s like wrapped ETH, USDC, etc.? Yeah, that's a great question. Maybe from Connext or Nomad, you guys could chime in on this.
Sure. Yeah, happy to take this one. So the very cool thing is the way Nomad works is that the Nomad Bridge Router smart contract, whenever a new ERC20 is being bridged for the first time over from Ethereum, if it doesn't have that in its registry, will automatically deploy an ERC20 representation on the Evmos side and then mint the appropriate balance towards whatever address is being bridged. All that to say, that's a complicated way of saying any ERC20 can be bridged without needing to be listed by a centralized party. And even cooler is if there's sufficient liquidity in this and Connext routers can pick up and purchase that liquidity on the Evmos side, then Connext routers can then run all of these, have liquidity pools and be able to offer quick swaps and all of these assets as well. But I'll let Arjun say more about that.
Yeah, that's a good synopsis. I mean, I think the way that the Nomad application works right now, and then we've also integrated this into like Expollinate, which is one of the most frequently used bridges built on top of Connext, is that if there is liquidity in Connext, it'll try to use that, and then if not, it'll use Nomad. So generally, as a user, you won't really even have to think about it. You'll just be able to like try to bridge an asset. If there isn't enough liquidity for it, it'll automatically just fall back to using Nomad. And then over time, as like liquidity goes in Connext, you'll just find that bridging happens faster and faster and faster. I will say on our end, like realistically, like Connext router operators are most likely going to focus on like, kind of the blue chip assets with the deepest amount of liquidity and the highest demand, just because that's, where they're going to get the best returns. But I would expect that over time, it'll kind of extend to like longer tail assets too.
Yeah, that's a good caveat that I forgot to mention as well. In the official Nomad GUI, initially what will be listed is the blue chips, as Arjun mentioned, the like WETH, USDC, USDT, DAI, WBTC, the big ones with the most liquidity. But the contracts themselves are permissionless, so folks who want to bridge over assets using Etherscan can move any ERC20s. And then if we notice there's like a lot of demand to bridge whatever long tail assets or other ERC20s, it's very easy for us to just add it in the GUI. So we'll be quick. If there's any questions around how to do this, hop in the Discord and feel free to mention us, and we're happy to add anything. But for the most part, people will be able to use the contracts as they need to.
One follow-up question I have here, and Pranay, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is also bi-directional, right? So like you'll be able to, with the same kind of setup, be able to start sending, Evmos assets back pretty much immediately, and have them be minted, have like Nomad representations of them on Ethereum as well, correct?
Exactly. Yeah, this is when we get into the cool territory of potentially even moving Atom via IBC into Evmos and then using the ERC20 module on Evmos. That ERC20 can then get sent over to Ethereum. So you can imagine really cool things like having Uniswap pools with Atom and ETH, or like indexes with assets like other native assets like Atom. So yeah, very true. You can go the other way as well, though I think a lot of people will want to flood into Evmos first.
Yeah, one follow-up question I have for you guys is, I think users are probably wondering, what does like the UX of this kind of look like? Is there going to be like a dashboard that they can connect to, and it'll just work? Yeah.
So there are a couple GUIs. The one that we're kind of running right now, where we've connected Ethereum and Moonbeam, is it's hosted at app.nomad.xyz. It's just your traditional like bridging GUI where you can select two networks and then the asset that you want to send over. As we discussed earlier, what will happen first is if there's enough liquidity in the Connext routers, it will attempt to fill it quickly using Connext. And then if there isn't liquidity in whatever asset people want to send over, it'll default over to the Nomad API and use the Nomad layer to mint the asset on the other side. I think there's also Xpollinate, which is the Connext GUI. I don't know if it has Nomad support yet, Arjun. Does it work the same way? On a bridge widget, codename Bridget, which I think is the best name ever. That
That's
other
amazing.
right.
Please make a
So,
mascot.
Aaron, I'll let you decide whether you want to do that or not. Feel free to request the mic and come up here if you want to share more. But the quick spiel about Bridget is any DeFi app that wants to integrate bridging directly into their web app and not make users have to kick out to Xpollinate or the Nomad GUI can integrate this and get that same functionality. So I think it'll be implemented either as an iframe or maybe as a native SDK, but yeah, reach out to us in Discord if you want to hear more about that or talk about it as well.
Nice. One more follow-up on that. This as a bridge, in this case, it seems like there will be some degree of liquidity providers, right? So what should liquidity providers look for if they want to get involved here?
So there wouldn't be liquidity providers on the Nomad side, just because that's Nomad is sort of responsible for the minting and like locking and minting of the tokens. There is liquidity on our side. However, so at the moment, this is a very, very difficult research problem, but in general, like having cross-chain liquidity pools is not really possible without introducing trust. And so, and this is like pooled liquidity rather than having individuals kind of providing liquidity and running infrastructure. So like what we have right now is that people can provide liquidity to Connext, but you have to like operate infrastructure to do it. We're totally open to having folks from the Evmos community do this. We're actually looking for people to do that. So if you are interested and are kind of capable of supplying a decent amount, or at least like working with, with us to find other people to help supply a decent amount, then we're absolutely interested in chatting with you. The passive liquidity piece, I think, is something that we're actively researching, and we're trying to work towards finding a model that that has like acceptable trust considerations, perhaps using Nomad.
Nice. Yeah, we could look into potentially incentivizing that with the governance pool or the usage incentives or something like that, because I think bringing in liquidity providers, it's going to be really helpful for UX. It'll also be a good opportunity for people that want to operate on this stuff and see how it works. Be more involved in the Utmost community, and constantly make improvements. So super exciting. Next question on the list is another one from Koza, which is, will this also allow us to bridge native CW20 tokens to ETH mainnet? Yeah, that's a great question. At the moment, I think like right after launch, I don't think we have plans for this. The reason being is, the same reason why we don't necessarily have plans to bridge Cosmos ecosystem tokens like immediately to ETH mainnet, because essentially we would have to find, there would have to be applications on the other side that would sort of support those assets and provide value accrual for those assets or usage for those assets in order to justify it. Happy to kind of revisit this, but it's a great question. Another question is from Asverdi, which is, our team built several contracts that reached about 270,000 interactions with it. Can we count on a bonus for this? And another question, when will we stop the nodes of Olympus Mons main testnet? Yeah, so the first question, yeah, we can we'll talk to the community managers and we'll see what we can do. The second question, which is when will we stop the testnet? We're planning to stop it probably this Thursday. So that's pretty soon. We saw that a new Cosmos SDK release came out, so that enables us to basically launch a testnet with some of the features that are going to be on mainnet, so that we can kind of QA them and see if they break in testnet. And we'd love to have people kind of help with that. We're thinking this Thursday for taking down the existing testnet and launching a new one. Crypto Saint said, "Hey guys, I love the project. I think it is hard for us as users to fathom the number of new possibilities that will be unlocked by linking the EVM and IBC through Evmos. With that said, are there any new innovations that were not possible pre-Evmos that you are really excited about?" Yeah, that's a great question. If you're kind of looking at the fundamental like tech benefits of Evmos, if you read the token model blog post, we try to think in terms of tech and DeFi. The one big tech benefit is, we're like the only one thinking about the EVM plus IBC. And this kind of differentiates us from all the other EVMs out there, because if we can talk to other chains pretty seamlessly through IBC, we can basically take any assets, take any executions that are happening on the EVM and sort of have them talk to, external chains as if they're like services. Innovations, I think, this is like a new programming paradigm in a way. So, we're thinking about kind of flagship applications for Evmos launch. So, the initial launch, we're going to have a bunch of applications that are going to be experimenting with the current tooling and the intra-relayer module. The next step will kind of be to see, how can we get cross-chain composability more in depth. And our team is going to be working to think about that, build kind of tooling to show people what this is capable of. Since when Ethereum came out after Bitcoin, right, it was a complete change in how people thought about writing apps. While I'll say this is not quite as staggering of a change, because we're using a Turing complete execution environment, plus we're just adding in cross-chain functionality, I think this change is quite significant, because it's adding connectivity to something that couldn't talk to other chains before, and that's really exciting. So I'm really looking forward to kind of seeing the experiments.
Yeah. To add to what just Akkad said is, what I'm really excited is interchain composability. So what interchain composability enables is basically to a non-EVM chain to talk to Evmos EVM. So imagine you deploy your EVM, your custom application specific blockchain on Cosmos or any BFT, and then through IVC, that chain can talk natively to a smart contract that has been deployed on Evmos, and then through the events that have been logged through the transaction, like through the state transition generated on Evmos, you can execute custom logic on your application. What that means is now you don't even need another EVM to do all the composability that you wanted, or if you wanted to like have an ecosystem of DeFi, those can already be deployed on Evmos, and you can benefit from that composability through IVC. And through the magic of IVC, your chain can scale horizontally and build a new variety of different use cases that are tackling your specific business logic. So it's really going to be great. During my presentation on Cosmo Bears in Lisbon this year, I gave two concrete examples of Region Network talking to the Evmos EVM for their eco credits and also for Sommelier to, in case, for example, like Uniswap deploys on Uniswap or Aave deploys on Evmos, they will be able to manage and rebalance the liquidity positions directly by sending an IVC transaction. What this benefit from for the end user is basically you have a lower latency than using like a traditional bridge, like Gravity Bridge, and you also spend less on fees. So you can still benefit from like all the liquidity, etc., from like Gravity Bridge, etc., like by talking to Ethereum. But if these applications are natively deployed on Evmos, then your application is able to scale way faster than by sending data to Ethereum natively. So that is one specific use case that I'm really excited about, and the team is really looking forward to implement this year. Something that we forgot to mention as well is how are we improving the user experience for everyone. Like bringing the Ethereum and Cosmos ecosystem also involves a huge amount of work in user experience and usability. So in the next few weeks, we're gonna be giving more announcements on what we've been doing so far to unify these two ecosystems into a nice user experience for our end users. Yeah, and that brings us to the very end. I'm not sure, Akash, do you want to invite some people to the stage and ask one final question?
Yeah, let's invite people up if they have any questions. Happy to answer them.
First up, we've got Fructozamen ETH. Can you hear us all right? Can you try talking, Fructozamen? Looks like we've got Jack taking his place here. Whoops. Looks like he's having problems connecting as well. Fructozamen, can you hear us? I think he dropped off. All right, let's try Isaac here. Hey there, Isaac. Can you try talking? We can't seem to hear you, Isaac. Can you hear us all right? Maybe third time's the charm here. Let's try.
Hey, hello. Do you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute. So, congratulations for the project. I'm very excited about this. If I want to buy the token FMOS, where is the best play to buy it in the secondary market after the airdrop? Osmos is the best place, or what do you recommend?
Yeah, so regarding the token, I can't really say for sure because it's all going to be depending on the community on where do they implement or they launch the liquidity pool earlier. But because of IBC, I would assume the options that we have in the Cosmos ecosystem are going to be the first ones. But yeah, I to be honest, I wouldn't know because that's going to happen naturally after we launch. Awesome. Yeah, I'm gonna invite someone else to the speaker to speak.
week or two, there's going to be a dashboard launched with Mars meteor emission results, as well
Hey.
as
Hey, Paulo, can you hear us?
Hi, sorry, yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry. I couldn't hear you for a second. Can you repeat your question?
Sure. Sorry about that. Yeah, I was saying, I just want to make sure I understood correctly. Over the next week or two, there's going to be a dashboard released with Mars meteor emission results, as well as airdrop. And the next step after that, for those who participated, is going to be the mainnet, correct?
Yeah, so we'll be releasing a dashboard with all the information for to see how much you've been allocated because of the airdrop, and also on the different like incentive assessment Mars master missions. So yeah, like really looking forward for that UI, and you'll be able to see that information, and also you're going to be able to claim directly on that interface, like using that interface.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Awesome. Adding crypto saints. Hey, can you hear us?
Hi, guys. Love the project. Quick question about the app stores, the dApp store. So you're going to split 50% of the fees to developers. Do you have any concerns about developers simply dumping their rewards as soon as they get them? Because obviously they're maybe locked up in their project, they're vested on their rewards on the project. Do you have any concerns around them essentially just dumping whatever rewards they get from the dApp store onto the market continually?
That's a great question. To be honest, that's not a really high concern of us, because the transaction fees that they will be receiving are the ones directly that are using the application. So if you as an end user are interacting with, for example, Aave that is deployed on Evmos, or Nomad Bridge, or Connects, they will be receiving like half of the transaction fees according to the usage. So like developers that don't have enough usage won't be receiving as much. So and we can expect that the projects with a larger amount of fees are going to be also more aligned to the project. So yeah, really looking forward also to see like different projects also spin out new validators, and being like also infrastructure providers in different ways. So
Makes sense.
I have some stuff to add to that for you. So you know, the fee splits, Fed is right about that the projects will be getting half of it. So a lot of liquidity will still be going to, contract deployers, and part of that will also be going to like validators, right? So the liquidity is first off split, and then the second part is, in the initial phases of Evmos, I think we're expecting that people will keep this token as like devs on Evmos, because if they deployed on Evmos and they didn't really believe in Evmos and they didn't want to drive usage to their application, and they just dump their Evmos tokens, then I think that's kind of like a weird circumstance where it's like, you're on Evmos to basically just you're running an application like a service on Evmos just to be able to like dump the token, right? Which doesn't make a ton of sense. Like somebody could do it. I think it's just very unlikely. And I think the incentives to kind of take that Evmos and stake it will be really strong, because there's going to be, I don't know if you saw like the token issuance, but basically we're doing like the half-life scheme, which is like there's like an exponential decay. So the year one is like pretty high inflation. So stakers will be able to earn quite a bit. And as somebody who's making revenue off these protocols, if you're aligned to deploy on Evmos, I think you would be aligned to like stake and like earn more rewards from staking.
Yeah, good point. Thank you.
Anyone else want to raise their hand, or are we going to end this call?
Yeah, we can have one more call and then we can end it. I just invited Velvet Milkman, intern at Figment.
Yeah, hi. Congratulations on the announcement, and congratulations to all three of these awesome projects. Just two questions, one for Evmos and then one for Nomad. For Evmos, given that the rec drop is both for Cosmos ecosystem and the Ethereum ecosystem, how does the airdrop work on the Ethereum side? Will they be receiving an ERC20 token and then bridging it over, or will it be on the Cosmos side already? And then secondly, for Nomad, for Moonbeam, for example, you guys launched the same time as Moonbeam went online. Do you anticipate supporting Evmos from day one? And if so, is that the way that folks should think about, if there is an ERC20 version of Evmos' token, should they be using Nomad's bridge? Thanks.
Yeah. To your first question, so for Ethereum, the claiming process for Ethereum users is going to be basically allocating the tokens directly to the addresses. Because we use the same address derivation and as Ethereum, those addresses will be the same ones as the external own accounts. So like end user accounts. We've already filtered over like all the contracts because they don't apply in this case. So we'll be airdropping directly to users using the same address. The airdrop token claiming process, the airdrop claiming process for Cosmos is more complicated, but to summarize it, it basically involves sending an IVC transaction from that address that have been allocated the tokens to Evmos. So you send a transaction, for example, with one micro Osmo or one micro atom over to Evmos, and then you receive the tokens. You basically are doing an on-chain attestation by sending an IVC transfer. That's the high level mechanism that we'll be implementing for the claiming process.
Yep, on the Nomad side, I think Luke on our team has been working closely to kind of monitor testnet kind of upgrades and be sure that we're ready to deploy. I think our team is very stoked. So whenever Evmos team is ready to go live, we're happy to fast follow and be there as soon as our contracts can be deployed. And I think I can speak for Connex that they also on the Moonbeam launch fast followed, and we within 24 hours, I think both solutions were available. So Velvet Milkman, I know you're a proud member of Hot Dog DAO. If Hot Dog DAO also wants to launch and start sending hot dog tokens over, we should be able to do so within 24 hours.
Awesome.
Bullish.
Okay. Thanks everyone. With this, we're gonna be we're gonna end now our weekly community call. Thank you very much for all your overwhelming support. Please remember to follow the people that are here on stage. So follow Nomad and Connects, and don't forget to follow Evmos. Yeah, stay up to date with all the announcements that we'll be releasing, and by following Evmos on social media, and also joining our Discord, where you can talk directly to the engineers and also to the core members of the Evmos team. Awesome, guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Bye.
Appreciate it.
See you,
Thank you.
everybody.